Turns out it wasn't a very nice day. But it doesn't really matter whether it's a nice day. It might be more interesting what we learn about it on a bad day like today. So yeah, the autopilot is pretty interesting to people, everybody, and it's probably pretty interesting to people that haven't had personal experience with it, so this might give them a bit of similar to what the experience is to drive it. But it's also interesting for us that are beta testing it. It's interesting for me because you can't see these things when you're driving it. You can't see everything that's displayed in this video when you're driving it because it's not put in the right relationship, like what you see out the window and then looking at the screen. That's hard to do. You can't focus on both those things at the same time. So people that have driven this know that a pretty important element in the way the autopilot functions is what you see on the screen there. The most important thing is that the autopilot is reading those markings on the road, and then it's using that information to orient itself to the road and to the other traffic. So those two lines that are extending out from what represents my car in the foreground there those two lines represent the markings on the road. And without those lines, or without the markings, the autopilot can't steer itself. It won't know where it is. That's how it knows that it's on a road, and it's how it knows which lane it's in. So those lanes, those blue markings, they extend. Right now they're extended out to the car in front of us. And most of the time that's the way they look. Extending well out into the distance. But sometimes the markings become less clear. And when they're less clear, like maybe they are right now, because of the rain or whatever. Then the autopilot makes less certain decisions. Like you notice right there that it was trying to make a turn to the left. And so because I'm going according to Tesla's guidelines and I've got my hands on the wheel pretty much all the time. So I was able to correct that pretty easily. I mean, all you have to do, if your hands are on the wheel and the wheel is just slipping through your hands as it turns itself. So like the back of my hands are resting on my knees, and my hands are, my fingers are around the wheel, and it just slips between them. So if something happens like what happened back there, all I have to do is tighten the grip on my on the wheel. That's a matter of like the 10th of a second after I know that I want to. I actually struggled with the idea that I had to have my hands on the wheel for a while, like everybody else seems to be. People say, why would you have your hands on the wheel that drives itself? Or what's the point of it driving itself if you've got your hands on the wheel? Those seem like logical questions. But I finally decided that I just feel more comfortable if my hands are on the wheel. I'm sitting here in the driver's seat, and whenever I've been sitting in the driver's seat, my hands have been on the wheel. If I take my hands off the wheel, it feels weird, and I don't feel connected to the car anymore. So maybe in the future, when this thing drives itself completely reliably, and there will be no reason to have your hands on the wheel, then maybe I won't even sit in the seat, or maybe I will, but I guess at that point I'll make the adjustment, and I'll realize that it's completely unnecessary. But that's not the way it is right now. There's quite a few times when you have to take control of the car, and you don't want to be jarred out of another state of awareness when you have to do that. That doesn't feel comfortable. So I guess it's a subtle thing, really, but when you're sitting here with your hands on the wheel, you actually have the sense that you're driving it yourself. And that makes you feel comfortable. If you take your hands off the wheel, you have no sense at all that you're driving it yourself, and you feel stressed. I think probably everybody feels that way. So anyway, the guidelines Tesla tells you are the right thing to do, I think. Okay, so the speed limit's 80, and I'm going 80. I have the speed set, the cruise set at 80. So for people that aren't familiar with this, I'm sure it's pretty obvious anyway, but just to the left of the indicated speed, there's a smaller dial, and under that it's 80. It says 80. Here, I'll just put it up to 85. And now I'll put it back down to 80. Speed limit. And then below that you see the speed limit sign, and it looks just like a regular speed limit sign, and it says 80. And that gets there, from what I've seen, mainly by it reading the speed limit sign. That's one of the capabilities of the hardware, the camera and the software. The camera will read the sign, and right when you pass it, it will update it to whatever it is. We're passing one now, but it's 80, so it's not going to change it. And then that circle over there on the left, which has got a orange band going up, that's showing you how much energy you're using at any moment in time. It's orange when it's going up, and there it's almost at kind of a neutral point. And if we go down a bit of a hill, which I think we are going to here, it will turn green, and that'll mean that it's regenerating. Since this part of our drive is generally uphill, you probably won't see that for a while. And underneath that is the average watt-hour per kilometer. Right now it's 313. That's higher than average for all-time driving because we're going uphill. And then in the bottom left, it's our expected range, 264 kilometers right now. This is a new display, completely different than the one before Autopilot was updated, or over the air updated. So I mentioned the Tesla's guidelines, and I'm just going to put them up here on the screen so you can see them. First of all, when the Autopilot arrives as a over-the-air update, that particular screen on the 17-inch display showing the car's settings got updated too. And you have to turn it on. It doesn't come turned on, so you have to turn it on. And so you turn it on like this. And when you do, that other screen pops up. And so it's not actually not on yet. You have to read that screen, and you have to basically agree that you're going to be a beta tester, that you agree to the terms. And there are terms there that you can read, and then there's more terms, a little bit more explicit in the guidelines. So I'll show those too. So this is what supposedly everybody that drives a Tesla that gets the Autopilot, that's what they're agreeing to. And it's pretty clear by some of the videos on YouTube that everybody's not doing it the same way as Tesla advises.